Keith Roberts Jr., who's accused of walking into a Bradenton medical lab yesterday and shooting two women. Police say one of the women was Roberts' ex-girlfriend. She died and her coworker was seriously injured.
This man's a terrorist. He terrorized those people's lives.
A man walked into his girlfriend's workplace with a shotgun and opened fire. He shot her. Then he shot her coworker. What was her offense? What crime had she committed that deserved a death sentence? Nothing. She told him the relationship wasn't working anymore. She needed space. She needed time. She needed peace and sanity. She had a son to take care of. She wanted to move on with her life. That was her crime. So he grabbed his weapons, drove to her job, walked through an unlocked door, found her sitting at her desk, and pulled the trigger. When detectives asked him why, he didn't hesitate, didn't lawyer up, didn't claim it was an accident. I didn't want her to be with anyone else. 6 words. That's all it took to explain why a 29-year-old mother would never go home to her son again. Hello, Crime Trail family. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you here today. We're diving into a case that happens far too often. A case where a man's refusal to accept rejection turned deadly. If you're just coming across this channel, welcome. Please hit that like button, share this video, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement keeps cases like this in the public consciousness. It keeps the conversation going. It might even save a life. Myshaela Burnham was 29 years old when she died. A phlebotomist working at a medical laboratory in Bradenton, Florida. A mother. A daughter who grew up in Manatee County with dreams like anyone else. Vibrant. That's the word people use to describe her. The kind of person who walked into a room and changed the energy. The kind of person people gravitated toward. Myshaela had a young son. Everything she did was for him. Every shift at the medical lab, processing blood samples and running tests, every extra hour, every sacrifice, she was building a future for both of them. She also had a boyfriend, Keith Roberts Jr. The two had been together for a while, a long-term relationship, the kind where you know each other's routines, each other's families, each other's habits. The kind where you know exactly where someone works, exactly where they sit, exactly what time they take their lunch break. But within the last month, something had shifted. Myshaela had ended it. These things happen. People grow apart. Feelings change. Sometimes love just runs its course, and the healthiest thing two people can do is walk away. Myshaela walked away. Keith Roberts Jr. couldn't accept that. Keith was also 29. On the surface, he looked like someone you could trust, someone responsible. He worked as a security guard at Manatee Memorial Hospital. His job was to protect people, to keep patients safe, to respond calmly in emergencies, to be the person others could count on when things went wrong. But when his own life went wrong, when Myshaela told him it was over, that calm disappeared. The kind of knowledge he had about her became dangerous. He knew her workplace, her schedule, her desk location, information that, in the wrong emotional state, becomes a weapon all its own. When the relationship ended, Keith didn't just accept it and move on. He reached out, he called, he wanted to talk, he wanted another chance. On the morning of January 15th, 2026, Myshaela gave him that chance. She answered the phone. They talked for 2 hours. Imagine being in Myshaela's position. You've already said it's over. You've already made your choice. But you care about this person. You spent significant time with them, so you give them the courtesy of a conversation. You explain yourself. You try to be kind but firm. You hope they'll understand. 2 hours of emotional labor. 2 hours of explaining why you need to move forward. 2 hours of trying to let someone down gently. And somewhere during those 120 minutes, Keith Roberts Jr. reached what he would later call his breaking point. He realized Myshaela meant it. She really wasn't coming back. She really had moved on. Not to another man, just moved on from him. She'd chosen herself, her peace, her future. That realization didn't make him sad. It made him lethal. For most people in that medical office complex on 4th Avenue Circle East, it started as just another Wednesday. Patients dropping off blood samples, staff processing tests, phones ringing, the mundane rhythm of healthcare administration. Myshaela Burnham was at her desk, the same desk she sat at every day, doing her job like she'd done hundreds of times before. At 12:48 p.m., Keith Roberts Jr. walked through an unlocked door carrying a shotgun and a handgun. He walked in armed like he was going to war. Because in his mind, that's exactly what this was. If he couldn't have Myshaela, he'd make sure no one else could either. Bradenton Police Chief Josh Kramer would later describe what happened next with chilling precision. He walked in an unlocked door and went directly to the desk where the victim was, knowing that's where her desk was, and directly opened fire at point-blank range. Myshaela didn't have a chance. She couldn't run, couldn't hide, couldn't fight back. She was sitting at her desk, and suddenly her ex-boyfriend was standing over her with a weapon, and then she was gone. But Keith Roberts Jr. wasn't done. The blast was so close, so powerful, that it hit someone else too. A coworker named Summer Freitag, sitting at an adjoining desk. The pellets sprayed across the workspace, striking this woman who was just doing her job, just trying to get through another Wednesday. Summer saw what was happening. She witnessed Keith shoot Myshaela. She became a threat, someone who could identify him, someone who could testify. Summer was shot multiple times, shotgun blast and handgun rounds. She somehow survived. Then Keith Roberts Jr. walked out, got in his car, drove away. Inside that office, chaos, screaming, people calling 911, their voices shaking, trying to explain what they just witnessed, trying to process how a normal Wednesday had turned into an absolute nightmare. Myshaela Burnham was dead at the scene. Summer Freitag was rushed to Blake Hospital as a trauma alert, fighting for her life in surgery. And Keith Roberts Jr. was heading toward the DeSoto Bridge. Before we continue, I want you to think about something. Myshaela did everything right. She ended a relationship that wasn't working. She tried to be kind during that final phone call. She went to work, lived her life, focused on her son, and it still wasn't enough to keep her safe. This isn't a story about what she could have done differently. This is about a man who chose violence over acceptance. Drop your thoughts in the comments about how this makes you feel. The 911 calls came flooding in at 12:48 p.m. Officers from the Bradenton Police Department were on scene within minutes. But Keith Roberts Jr. was already gone. Witnesses had seen him leave, they'd seen his vehicle, they gave descriptions, license plate, make and model, direction of travel. These witnesses, people who just survived a mass shooting in their workplace, had the presence of mind to gather information that would help catch him. Every agency in the area was looking for one man in one vehicle. Bradenton PD, Manatee County Sheriff's Office. The alert went out immediately. At 1:12 p.m., near the Bradenton Area Convention Center in Palmetto, Manatee County deputies spotted the car. They pulled him over. 25 minutes. From shooting to arrest. Keith Roberts Jr. didn't run, didn't resist. When officers approached his vehicle, he knew exactly why they were there. He made statements indicating he understood why he was being stopped. Of course he knew. He just executed his ex-girlfriend in broad daylight in front of witnesses. There was no getting away with this. There was no escape plan. Maybe he'd never intended to escape. Maybe this was always how it was going to end. At the police station, detectives read Keith his rights. He could have remained silent, could have asked for a lawyer, could have made them work for a confession. He didn't. Keith Roberts Jr. agreed to be interviewed, and what he told detectives was somehow more disturbing than the crime itself. He admitted everything. The 2-hour phone call with Myshaela that morning, the realization that she wouldn't be getting back together with him, the decision he made in that moment. I killed her because I didn't want her to be with anyone else. Not I was angry. Not I lost control. Not I didn't mean to. Just pure, honest possessiveness. She was his, and if she wasn't going to be his anymore, she wasn't going to be anyone's. Not even her own. The detectives knew they had their case, the confession, the witnesses, the physical evidence, the premeditation, bringing 2 weapons, knowing exactly where she worked, going directly to her desk. Keith Roberts Jr. was formally charged with first-degree murder with a firearm and attempted first-degree murder with a firearm. First-degree murder. That's the most serious homicide charge in Florida. That means premeditated, planned, intentional. Not a crime of passion, not a moment of weakness. Murder with malice aforethought. If convicted, he'd face a mandatory sentence of life in prison. No parole, no second chances. Life means life in Florida. Summer Freitag spent hours in surgery, shot multiple times with both a shotgun and a handgun at close range. She's lucky to be alive. But what about the mental wounds? What about the trauma of watching your coworker get murdered? What about the sound of gunshots echoing in your memory every time you try to sleep? What about the survivor's guilt, the question that haunts every person who lives when someone else dies? Summer has a long road ahead, physically, emotionally, psychologically. A GoFundMe was set up to help with her medical expenses and recovery. People called her a hero, a miracle, a living testament to the randomness of survival. She'll carry this day with her forever. And then there's Myshaela's son, a young boy who woke up that Wednesday morning with a mother and went to bed that night without one, who waited for her to come home from work, not knowing she never would. What do you tell that child? How do you explain that his mother didn't leave him by choice, that she loved him more than anything, that she was building a future for him when someone decided she didn't deserve a future at all? Myshaela's sister, Brianna Fisher, set up a GoFundMe for her nephew. On January 15th, my beautiful sister's life was tragically cut short, she wrote. Myshaela was a bright light in every life she touched.
A phenomenal woman, just a very vibrant person, and she brought that in to everything, not just her family, but her work.
Brianna spoke to reporters after reading the arrest affidavit, after seeing Keith Roberts Jr.'s own words about why he killed her sister. And that's the terrifying reality for so many people in abusive or toxic relationships. They hide it. They minimize it. They don't want to burden their families. They think they can handle it themselves until they can't. This case isn't unique. It's not an outlier. It's not some rare, once-in-a-lifetime tragedy. It happens all the time. A woman leaves a relationship. Days later, weeks later, sometimes even months later, her ex shows up. At her home, at her job, at her car. And he has a weapon. And he has a plan. And he has one simple motivation. If I can't have her, no one will. The most dangerous time for someone in a toxic or abusive relationship isn't while they're in it. It's when they try to leave. 75% of people harmed in domestic situations are attacked when they're leaving or have already left the relationship, because leaving means losing control. And for people like Keith Roberts Jr., control is everything. It's not about love. It never was. It's about ownership, about possession, about the belief that another person belongs to you. When Myshaela ended the relationship, she was taking back her autonomy, and Keith Roberts Jr. couldn't tolerate that, so he took her life. If he couldn't control it, he'd end it. This isn't about love. This is about power. And when power is threatened, violence follows. The medical community in Bradenton is still reeling. Healthcare workers who already deal with trauma, stress, and emotional exhaustion now have to process the fact that their workplace, a place of healing, became a crime scene. The office where Myshaela worked has implemented new security measures. Locked doors, panic buttons, protocols for dealing with potentially dangerous ex-partners. But no security system can fully protect someone from a person who knows their routine, who knows their schedule, who knows exactly where they'll be and when. Manatee Memorial Hospital, where Keith Roberts Jr. worked as a security guard, released a statement expressing shock and offering condolences to the victims' families. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man who was supposed to protect people had become the very threat others needed protection from. Chief Kramer's words kept circulating in the media. This man is a terrorist. He terrorized those people's lives. He's changed the lives of 4 people or 2 victims, the children of a victim, the man himself. Their lives are either over or changed forever. The cruelty and the evil that Keith Roberts portrayed yesterday can never be forgiven. A terrorist. Not just a jealous ex-boyfriend. Not just someone who lost control. A terrorist. Someone who uses violence to instill fear, to control, to dominate. Keith Roberts Jr. remains in custody at the Manatee County Jail. No bond, no bail. He's facing the most serious charges Florida's legal system can bring. His detention hearing confirmed what everyone already knew. He's a flight risk and a danger to the community. He'll stay behind bars until trial. If convicted of first-degree murder, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Every day behind bars, a reminder of the 2 hours on the phone, the decision he made, the woman whose life he stole. Summer Freitag is out of the hospital and continuing her recovery. She's alive. She survived. But the physical and emotional scars will last forever. Myshaela's family is focused on her son, on honoring her memory, on making sure she's remembered not as a victim, but as the vibrant, phenomenal woman she was. The trial will come. The evidence will be presented. Keith Roberts Jr.'s own words will be read in court, and a jury will decide his fate. But no verdict will bring Myshaela back. No sentence will undo the trauma Summer experienced. No punishment will give Myshaela's son his mother back. So, what do you think about this case? Does it make you angry? Scared? Heartbroken? If you're in a relationship where your partner tracks your location, isolates you from loved ones, makes you feel afraid, or threatens what they'll do if you leave, that's not love. Real love doesn't control. Real love doesn't threaten. Real love doesn't end in violence. And if you know someone in that situation, check on them. Let them know you're there. Don't wait until it's too late. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share this video so Myshaela's story reaches more people. Subscribe to Crime Trails so we can keep telling these stories, keep honoring these victims, keep having these conversations. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember, love should never hurt.